The unexpected encounter. The Breen ambassador's blue blood splattered the wall as his fist slammed into it, enraged that the humans dared ignore the Calic galactic slaughter. Those humans sit on their asses, jacking off while billions die. They could crush the Calic like ants if they gave a single asterisk. Ceres howled, heaving breaths hissing through his pointed teeth. His fellow Breen diplomat, Silo, rolled his eyes as he slouched in his chair. You know the humans. They don't do asterisk unless it's their asses on the line. Let aliens burn, they say. Ain't our problem. It will be when the Korth come for all of us. Who will the cowards hide behind then? Ceres circled the dimly lit briefing room like a caged tiger, fury building with each step. The space station's hum reverberated through the floor, a dull pulse throbbing in his skull. Careful, Ceres, Tylo warned, pale eyes narrowing. Remember what happened when the Zenari pissed the humans off trying to drag them into some border skirmish. The humans wiped their entire civilization into ash. 3 systems gone. Ceres paused, fists clenched. The Dan humans could end the Korth with a snap of their entitled fingers. If they don't step in soon, the Breen, the Council, everyone will burn. But if we push the humans too hard, tricky, fickle, lethal creatures, the galaxy's last hope or its destroyers, Ceres growled, glaring into the void of space beyond the window as if the stars themselves held the answer. Tylo leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Their uncanny ability is more like paranoia, always suspecting the worst. But go on, what happened next? Silo rubbed the back of his scaled neck, continuing the tale. Raiz pulled up this recording right there in the Zenari High Council chambers. The Zenari leaders tried to deny it at first, saying it was a fake, a fabrication. But Raiz didn't even blink. He just kept staring them down with those cold human eyes. Raiz tells them, cut the crap. We know it was you. Did you really think you could fool us? We've analyzed every piece of debris, every scrap of tech left behind. It's got Zenari fingerprints all over it. And then he leans in real close and says, the question is, what are we going to do about it? Ceres whistled low. That's ice cold. So the Zenari knew they were caught then, huh? What did they do? Start begging for mercy? Tylo snorted. Oh, they tried to justify it at first. Said they were desperate, that the Korth would destroy them if the humans didn't intervene. They practically got on their knees, pleading with Raiz to go after the Korth. And let me guess, the humans told them to get asterisk kid. Ceres smirked. In so many words, yeah. Xylo nodded. Raiz made it crystal clear that the humans weren't going to be their attack dogs. But that's not even the most impressive part. Raiz looks the Zenari High Council dead in the eyes and says, we could crush you right now for what you've done. Wipe out your entire civilization with a single command. But we're not going to do that. Ceres' eyes went wide. Wait, seriously. The humans let them off the hook after they pulled that asterisked. Tylo held up a clawed finger. Not quite. Raiz had one last message for the Zenari. He told them, consider this a warning. We leave you to deal with the Korth on your own. But if you ever try to manipulate us again, if you so much as look at our colonies the wrong way, we will end you thoroughly and completely. You'll be nothing more than a footnote in galactic history. Ceres shuddered, imagining the icy delivery of that threat. The humans could be utterly ruthless when provoked. So what happened to the Zenari after that? The Korth conquered them, of course, enslaved their entire species, but the Zenari didn't dare try to involve the humans again. They knew if they did, it would be the last mistake they ever made. Xylo shrugged. Ceres slouched back in his chair, mind reeling. The humans had dismantled the Zenari scheme with almost casual ease, seeing through their web of lies like it was nothing, and they'd done it all without firing a single shot. The ruthless lesson. That's the thing about humans. Philo said it as if reading Ceres' thoughts. They're not just intelligent, they're cunning. They play the long game better than anyone. They could have wiped out the Zenari right then and there, but they didn't. They left them as a living reminder of what happens when you've asterisked with humanity. Ceres swallowed hard, a newfound respect and fear for the enigmatic humans settling in his gut. If the humans ever decided to turn their gaze on the rest of the galaxy, if they ever tired of their isolation and neutrality, the thought sent a shiver down his spine. The humans held the fate of the galaxy in their hands, whether they realized it or not. And if they didn't step in against the Calax soon, there might not be a galaxy left to save. The humans fed the Korth intel on the Zenari. That's cold, man. I mean, I get punishing the Zenari for their deception, but actively helping their enemies wipe them out. That's ruthless, Ceres said. That's humanity for you. Psylocke nodded gravely. They don't take betrayal lightly. The Zenari thought they could play the humans for fools, but they underestimated just how far the humans were willing to go to make an example of them. Ceres shook his head in disbelief. I can't imagine what it must have been like for the Zenari, watching the Korth Armada descend upon their worlds, knowing that the humans had a hand in their downfall. It's the kind of thing that breaks a species, you know. Oh, it broke them all right, Xylo said. The Zenari were once a proud people, but after the Korth conquest, they were reduced to little more than slaves. Their cities were razed, their culture erased, their population decimated, all because they dared to cross the humans. Ceres leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. But surely the humans must have felt some remorse, some guilt over the fate they condemned the Zenari to. They're not completely heartless, are they? Xylo shrugged. Who knows what goes on in those human minds? They're an enigma. Ceres. One moment they're preaching peace and cooperation. The next, they're orchestrating the downfall of an entire civilization. All I know is that the Zenari incident sent a clear message to the rest of the galaxy. Don't asterisk with humanity. Ceres sat back, letting the weight of Xylo's words sink in. The humans were a force to be reckoned with. That much was clear. They had the power to shape the destiny of entire species, to build up empires or tear them down on a whim. And now, with the Calax threat looming over the galaxy, the humans once again held the fate of billions in their hands. The humans actually agreed to help the Zenari rebels, even after everything that happened between their two species. Ceres' eyes widened in surprise. They did indeed, Xylo said, a satisfied smile on his face. Raiz and his superiors saw the potential in allying with Kara's group. With the advanced Zenari tech and the rebels' insider knowledge of Korth tactics, they knew they could strike a serious blow against the Empire. Still, it must have been a tough call, Ceres mused, leaning back in his seat. The humans had every reason to tell the Zenari to have off after that stunt they pulled. Guess Raiz and his bosses are more pragmatic than I gave them credit for. Oh, they're pragmatic all right, Xylo chuckled. But they also know a good opportunity when they see one. By helping the Zenari rebels, they gained access to their cloaking tech and energy shields. That kind of edge could come in real handy down the line. The bold alliance. True enough, Ceres nodded thoughtfully. And I bet integrating that tech into their ships and defenses was a hell of a lot easier with the rebels' cooperation. Probably saved the humans years of reverse engineering. Exactly, Xylo said, tapping a clawed finger on the table for emphasis. But that was just the beginning. Kara and her rebels, they weren't content to just sit on their asses in some human colony. They wanted payback against the Korth, and they wanted it bad. Payback? What, like some kind of guerrilla campaign? Hit-and-run attacks to bleed the Korth dry? Ceres frowned. Xylo shook his head, a glint of excitement in his eyes. No, man. Kara had bigger plans than that. She wanted to take the fight right to the Korth's front door. Liberate the Zenari homeworld, no less. Liberate the... Ceres trailed off, shaking his head in disbelief. How the hell did she plan to pull that off? The Korth steamrolled the Zenari in the First War, and that was before they had a whole damn planet's worth of slaves and resources to draw on. Ah, But this time around, the Zenari had a secret weapon. Silo said, leaning forward conspiratorially. Human ingenuity. Human ingenuity. The hell's that supposed to mean? Ceres raised a skeptical eyebrow. It means Kara wasn't just working with human tech. She was working with human tactics, human strategy. See, she and her top rebels spent weeks holed up with the best military minds humanity had to offer, cooking up a plan to hit the Korth where it hurts. Tylo grinned. A plan, huh? Ceres said, his interest piqued. I'm guessing it was a bit more sophisticated than charging in guns blazing and hoping for the best. Then, you could say that. Xylo chuckled. The humans? They're master strategists. See, they know how to find an enemy's weak points and exploit the hell out of them. In this case, they helped the Zenari rebels plan a series of surgical strikes on key Korth installations. Let me guess, Ceres nodded slowly, beginning to see the shape of the plan. The rebels would use their cloaking tech to slip past the Korth defenses, hit their targets, and then bug out before the bastards knew what hit them. Got it in one, Xylo said, snapping his fingers. But that's not all. While the rebels were wreaking havoc on the ground, the humans would be lending a hand from above, providing air support, bombing runs, you name it. A coordinated assault, Ceres mused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. Risky as hell, but I can see how it might work. The Korth wouldn't know which way was up with all that chaos going on. And that's exactly what happened. Tylo said, his voice rising with excitement. The rebels struck hard and fast, appearing out of nowhere to torch Korth supply depots, weapons factories, even a couple of slave camps. All the while, human ships were raining hell down on any Korth forces that tried to respond. Damn, Ceres let out a low whistle. I bet the Korth never saw that coming. Must have been like getting sucker punched by a ghost. More like a whole army of ghosts, Xylo laughed. By the time the Korth got their asterisked together and mounted a counterattack, the rebels were long gone, and they'd left a trail of destruction in their wake that set the Korth's occupation efforts back by months. Unbelievable. Ceres shook his head in amazement. I never thought I'd see the day when the Zenari actually managed to give the Korth a bloody nose, and you're telling me they pulled it off with human help. Damn right they did. Xylo nodded, a fierce pride shining in his eyes. The Zenari-human alliance sent shockwaves through the whole damn galaxy. Suddenly, everyone was talking about the rebels who'd done the impossible, the slaves who'd struck back against their masters and lived to tell the tale. The turning tide. Got to admit, I'm impressed. Never thought those sneaky bastards had it in them. Ceres said, that's the power of human ingenuity for you. Xylo said, raising his glass in a toast. With the right allies and the right plan, even the most downtrodden species can rise up and change the course of history. The Zenari proved that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Ceres clinked his glass against Xylo's, a thoughtful expression on his face. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the humans can help pull off a stunt like that, what else might they be capable of? What other miracles might they have up their sleeves? Tylo smiled enigmatically, taking a long sip of his drink. Stick around long enough, my friend, and I have a feeling we'll find out. Something tells me the Zenari rebellion was just the beginning of humanity's impact on this crazy galaxy of ours. Ceres leaned back, eyes wide with shock. The Korth had no defense. Their ships were just disabled, just like that. Xylo nodded gravely. The energy weapon cut through their shields like they weren't even there. Korth warships, the pride of their fleet, were dead in the water, floating helplessly as the human Zenari forces picked them off one by one. Holy shit, Ceres breathed, trying to picture the carnage. The Korth must have been shedding themselves, to go from being on the brink of victory to watching their ships get swatted out of the sky. They were in complete disarray. Xylo confirmed. Their ground forces, cut off from support and reinforcements, quickly crumbled under the renewed human Zenari offensive. Key positions fell back into Allied hands, and the Korth were pushed back on all fronts. I can't even imagine what that must have been like for the Korth commanders, to have the tables turned on them so suddenly, so completely. Ceres said. It was a humiliating defeat. Tylo said. The Korth had always prided themselves on their military might, their technological superiority. To be outmatched so thoroughly by a species they had once conquered and enslaved, no less, it was a bitter pill to swallow. I'll bet, Ceres murmured. So what happened next? Did the Korth surrender, or did they try to fight on? The Korth are a proud species, Ceres. They don't surrender easily, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Xylo said thoughtfully. They were determined to fight to the last. They pulled back to their core systems, fortifying their defenses and preparing for a final stand. But the humans and Ceneri weren't about to let them regroup, were they? Ceres asked, his voice low. Not after coming so far, gaining so much ground. No, they weren't. Xylo shook his head. The Allied forces pressed their advantage, launching a series of coordinated strikes on Korth strongholds. With their new energy weapons and the element of surprise on their side, they were able to punch through the Korth lines and strike at the heart of their empire. I can't even imagine the kind of planning and coordination that must have taken, the logistics alone, Ceres said, stroking his chin thoughtfully. It was a massive undertaking. Xylo agreed. But the humans and Ceneri were determined to see it through. They knew that this was their chance to end the Korth threat once and for all, to free the galaxy from their tyranny. The humans are full of surprises, aren't they? Ceres said, a grin spreading across his face. They certainly are. Xylo nodded. The Korth had no idea what hit them. One moment they were pressing their attack, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. The next, their ships were adrift, their crews writhing in agony as the sonic waves tore through their bodies. The final push. It must have been a horrific sight to see such powerful warriors reduced to helpless, quivering masses. Ceres shuddered at the thought. It was. Tylo agreed, his voice turning somber. But it was also a necessary evil. The Korth had shown time and again that they would not stop until they had conquered or destroyed everything in their path. The humans and Ceneri had to use every tool at their disposal to bring an end to their tyranny. So with the Korth fleets incapacitated, I assume the humans and Ceneri pressed their advantage. Ceres said. They did. Xylo confirmed. The Allied forces launched a massive offensive, targeting key Korth strongholds and supply lines. With their ships out of commission and their troops in disarray, the Korth were unable to mount an effective defense. Ceres could almost picture the scene. Human and Ceneri ships sweeping through Korth space, their weapons cutting through the enemy's defenses like a hot knife through butter. Ground troops storming Korth bases, sonic devices in hand, rendering their foes helpless before them. It must have been a sight to behold. Ceres murmured, almost to himself. The once mighty Korth Empire crumbling before the combined might of the humans and Ceneri. It was a turning point, to be sure, Tylo said thoughtfully. But the Korth are nothing if not tenacious. Even with their forces in shambles, they refused to surrender. They fought to the last, making the humans and Ceneri pay for every inch of ground they took. I can't imagine the toll it must have taken on the Allied forces to fight an enemy that would rather die than admit defeat, Ceres said. It was a brutal campaign. Xylo agreed, his voice heavy with the weight of memory. The losses on both sides were staggering. But in the end, the humans and Ceneri prevailed. They broke the back of the Korth war machine and liberated the worlds that had suffered under their rule for so long. Ceres sat back in his chair, trying to process the magnitude of what he had just heard. The Korth had been the scourge of the galaxy for centuries, their names synonymous with fear and oppression. To think that they had finally been defeated, that the galaxy was free of their tyranny. It's almost too much to believe, Ceres said softly. The Korth gone, the humans, and Ceneri victorious. It's like something out of a legend. It's very real, my friend, Xylo said, a twinkle in his eye. and it's a testament to the power of unity and determination. The humans and Zanari, two species that had every reason to hate and mistrust each other, came together in the face. It's a lesson we could all stand to learn from, Ceres said, raising his glass in a toast. That our differences, our past grievances, they pale in comparison to what we can accomplish when we work together. To the humans and Zanari, Philo declared solemnly, clinking his glass against Ceres, may their alliance serve as an example to us all. The aftermath. The weight of the humans' actions settled heavily in the room, a palpable presence that seemed to suck the air from their lungs. Philo leaned back in his chair, his eyes distant as he recalled the aftermath of the Korth's defeat. It was chaos, Ceres, pure, unadulterated chaos. The Zanari, the rebels, all those who had fought alongside the humans, they were left reeling. Worlds that had been under Korth control for generations were suddenly free, but they had no idea what to do with that freedom. I can't even imagine. Ceres shook his head, trying to wrap his mind around the magnitude of the situation. All those different species, all those different cultures, suddenly thrown together without any guidance or support. Exactly, Xylo said, his voice heavy with the memory. There were power vacuums everywhere, warlords and would-be dictators springing up like weeds, each one trying to claim a piece of the Korth's former empire for themselves. It was a breeding ground for conflict and strife. But surely the humans must have known that would happen. Ceres frowned, a thought occurring to him. They're not stupid. They must have realized that just toppling the Korth without any kind of plan for the aftermath would lead to chaos. Oh, they knew. Xylo chuckled, but there was no humor in the sound. But you have to understand, Ceres, the humans operate on a different level than the rest of us. They think in terms of centuries, millennia even. The short-term chaos, the power struggles, to them, that's just a blip on the radar. So what? They just didn't care about the suffering that their actions would cause, the lives that would be lost in the scramble for power. Ceres asked. It's not that they didn't care. Xylo sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. It's that they saw it as necessary, a painful but unavoidable step on the path to a better future. In their eyes, the alternative, leaving the Korth in power, was far worse. Ceres sat back, his mind reeling. He had always known that the humans were different, that they operated by their own rules and their own moral code, but this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. That's the way they operate, Ceres. Xylo nodded. They're not conquerors, not in the traditional sense. They don't want to rule the galaxy or shape it in their image. They just want to ensure that their interests are protected, that their way of life is secure. Then I guess it's up to us, Ceres said, meeting Xylo's gaze. The Zanari, the rebels, all the species that the humans fought alongside. We have to pick up the pieces, forge our own path forward. It won't be easy, but what choice do we have? It won't be easy, Xylo said, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. But we're not alone, Ceres. We have each other, and we have the lessons that the humans taught us, both the good and the bad. We'll find our way, one step at a time. Ceres nodded, a new sense of determination settling over him. The galaxy had been forever changed by the humans' actions, for better or for worse. And now it was up to them, the survivors, the ones left behind, to shape its future. A new dawn. The Korth's once mighty empire lay in ruins, its vast territories now a patchwork of fledgling governments and fragile alliances. The galaxy was in flux, and amid the chaos, a new order began to emerge. The Zanari, now free from the Korth's yoke, faced the monumental task of rebuilding their shattered civilization. With the help of their human allies, they established a provisional government, striving to restore some semblance of order to their war-torn worlds. Human engineers and scientists worked alongside Zanari counterparts, sharing knowledge and resources. Together, they rebuilt infrastructure, restored power grids, and reopened schools and hospitals. Slowly but surely, the Zanari began to reclaim their heritage, piecing together the fragments of their once proud culture. Other species, inspired by the Zenari's resilience and the humans' unwavering support, began to seek out alliances of their own. Former enemies set aside their differences, realizing that unity was their best chance for survival in this new and uncertain era. The humans, true to their pragmatic nature, continued to play a guiding role in the galaxy's reconstruction. They brokered peace treaties, mediated disputes, and provided humanitarian aid to those in need. Their influence grew, not through conquest, but through the strength of their alliances and the respect they commanded. But the humans were not content to rest on their laurels. They knew that the galaxy remained a dangerous place, filled with threats both known and unknown. They continued to innovate, pushing the boundaries of science and technology, always seeking new ways to protect their allies and safeguard their interests. In the heart of human space, a new generation of leaders emerged, shaped by the lessons of the past and the challenges of the present. They were determined to honor the sacrifices of those who had come before them, to build a future where all species could thrive in peace and prosperity. And so, as the galaxy turned, the humans and their allies stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven that even the darkest of times could give rise to hope, that unity and determination could overcome even the most formidable of foes. The story of humanity and the Zenari became a beacon of inspiration, a testament to the power of cooperation and the indomitable spirit of those who dared to dream of a better future. And as long as they stood together, they knew that anything was possible.